All right. Our next talk will be given by Dylan Baer. And I am going to share the screen. See if I can remember how to get into presentation mode on every interface that we have.
Good online.
Use slideshow top left.
Yeah, the problem is that the mouse on this screen
It's
wasn't
just the
over
slide.
on the screen. So,
There we go.
all right, beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this on to, so you're double mic'd, but there shouldn't be an echo.
Okay,
Should be good.
good. Okay. So I am Dylan Baer. I'm an undergraduate researcher. I actually started this research this summer, and this is my first research and also my first conference. So yay.
Well found.
Thank you. Okay, so what we wanted to do this summer, well, our overall goal is to create a tool that can help undergraduate researchers like myself be able to help with creative classifications and make it an accessible thing to new researchers. And the way we're doing this is we're creating an automated tool that is using already existing methods. So we're not doing any per se new science, but we're making it into a more digestible manner for new researchers. So this summer I had a 6-week it was an 8-week program, but it was cut short by an unfortunate accident. So I had 6 weeks of working on it. So we created a program that will take 7 points on an elevation profile that we use for measurement of crater dimensions. And then we tested this very preliminary program against a human process. For this talk, I'll be going into the background methods of how we chose our existing methods, what the automated code is actually doing, the results that we got from our preliminary tests, and then what next steps we are looking at. So first background is a paper from 1977 written by Richard Pike, where he did ratios of crater dimensions against the diameter and was looking for patterns in the sizes of craters. We are taking this very preliminary idea and applying it to looking at ratios between primary and secondary craters and hoping to see some differences there that we can use for classification. And there's an example of the different crater dimensions that we are looking at. The other paper that we are referencing is Waters from 2017. They did a study on secondary craters on Mars, and we're taking some of the conclusions and going to use them in what we're looking at. They found that 3 to 4% of secondaries are have similar depth to diameter ratios of primaries, and they also noticed that morphometric asymmetries of secondary craters vanish at downrange distances. Now, when we're looking on the moon versus Mars, we might not see as much of those because of the difference in gravity. So there's not enough time for the secondary craters to reach hypervelocity and look exactly like primary craters, but we're keeping this in mind for when we get to this point. So what is the procedure doing? We are importing Lola 512 pixel per degree from JMars profiles, 4 for each crater as shown in the picture there. We are importing this into our IDL program. The crater data is from the Robbins Lunar Crater Database.
Good luck.
Then we are smoothing the profile to reduce any lateral variations, so it makes it easier to find the points that we want to find initially. We do that by averaging every 5 points together, just to generally create a smoother picture. Then we are selecting the endpoints of the profile. So this will create a best fit line that we use to normalize the crater. So we are reducing the pre-impact terrain factors and and elevation factors for different craters on different parts of the moon. Then on the smooth profile, we find the 7 seeded points that we want. We find the deepest point, the rims, the ends of the flanks, and the floors. These points are then used as seeded values for the unsmooth profile, so we have a lot less area of margin of error in finding them on the correct profile. Okay, so how do we choose the points? We find the deepest point by going to the deepest point of the profile. Yeah. Then we find the rims by going to the highest elevation on either side of the deepest point. We find the flanks by going to the first point below zero elevation or the point of greatest negative curvature outside of each rim. And then we find the floors by the point of greatest positive curvature between the rims and the deepest points. These very basic if statements of finding the profile, the points, can lead to some errors, which I will get into, but the basics of our preliminary experiment was we selected 8 craters from this region of the moon. 2 of them, these designations we came up with on our own were 2 fresh primaries, 2 moderately degraded primaries, 1 heavily degraded primary, and 3 secondaries. These were chosen based on crater size to be between 5 and 10-ish kilometers in diameter, and this is just very preliminary tests at the moment. Okay, so what worked well was very standard crater shapes, bowl shapes, steep walls. These produced the best results against human counters. There was pretty good matches between veteran and novice counter, and the automated procedure relatively agreed with us. The rims agreed. I talked about all of this. I was forgetting that I had arrows. Okay, so what didn't work were profiles like this that do not have a standard shape whatsoever. There are sometimes multiple craters in the same profile, heavily degraded. Deepest points are not chosen at the correct spot, even between human counters. The rims are thrown off on the automated procedure because it's going off of where it thinks the deepest point should be, which is not the crater that we're wanting to look at in this case. The flanks, they just kind of went wherever yeah. And same with the floors. Once the deepest point gets thrown off, everything is just, it doesn't help. So what did we do to address these shortcomings? For the deepest point, we are now IDing the 3 deepest points in the profile, and we're checking from the lowest one up to make sure it's in the center 20% of the profile. This will eliminate the error of going to another crater that it might be showing up in the same profile. And then for the rims, instead of just looking for the highest elevation on each side of the deepest point, we are looking at the closest one that is also the highest elevation, that is also one of the 3 greatest points of negative curvature. So we're introducing more statements that will hopefully narrow down the chances of getting an error there. Okay, so what is next is we want to do more quantitative evaluation of the performance of the code. We are doing this we want to get a better statistical understanding of human results against each other. We want to compare to existing databases that may or may not exist. We don't know if they do yet. And then possibly compare to machine learning processes in the future. We want to move to 3D DEMs so we have a better topographical understanding rather than just doing 4 profiles for each crater. This will give us better measurements across the entire profile and will allow us to measure the circularity and the evenness of the rim crest that we can't do with profiles only. And then we want to incorporate this into the overall pipeline that Cassie is working on a longer scale. Thank you, and there's my references.
All right, that was 10 minutes. Very well done, in terms of sticking on time. I'm at a loss, because I was expecting this to go another 3 or 4 minutes. I'm still taking notes.
This is where the accident happened, right? So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
didn't do anything.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
So I'm looking in the chat, so there are several claps, let's go Dylan, woo, vote Dylan.
Yay.
Great talk, Dylan, great job. All right.
Thank you.
We have a question in the room.
I have a question. You might have mentioned it, but could you help me understand like how you extrapolated that like top-down view and then were able to get those side-on dimensions?
From
Yeah, like that.
here.
Yes.
Okay, so the top-down view is from JMARS, and the Robbins Lunar Crater Database has the circular, like where the rim is supposed to be, and then I by hand drew the profiles on, and then each profile gives us the graph that we then sent to our procedure.
Okay. And then how are you able to like validate the plot on the right?
In JMARS itself, it gives us the plot, and then so we just exported the plot directly from JMARS to a CSV file that we then imported into our procedure.
Okay.
Lot of
Mine's kind of a follow-up really.
Okay.
So is that just one of the 4 profiles or is that?
Yeah.
average? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just one of the 4 profiles. It's the third one, which is the green one.
Awesome. Thank you.
How do you identify what a secondary crater is?
So for this very preliminary test, we went based off of what the profiles looked like. And we picked we determined they were secondaries when they had the characteristics of like these. We had we had 3 different craters that had overlapping craters and very degraded states. So we just determined that they were the secondaries. We haven't really tested that against like databases or anything. It was just
Okay, but you said at the outset, I thought that 4% or 3 or 4% had the profile, the depth of a primary crater.
yes.
And so why is that considered a secondary?
Those are conclusions from the Waters paper from their Mars study, and I included that in the presentation because once we are determining the measurements, we're going to try to find comparisons between the ratios of primaries to secondaries. So we want to keep that in mind for when we get there. At the moment, we're not really considering secondaries versus primaries or
So if you go back to your slide with the red crater overlays.
red crater overlays.
That's that one, okay.
This one.
So actually, Clark, in this, Dylan spoke a little bit. For this, we're using ones that have really classic secondary crater morphology. So for any of the data that we showed here, we determined that they were secondaries because they were in those big, long chains. So you're absolutely right. Eventually, there is that difference that we want to dig into, but for now, we're getting close to that.
I had a couple of comments. Could you go back to that slide that we were discussing for the first questions? That one. So I've done very similar work to this, and
Okay.
There's a tool in JMARS that you might be interested in learning about. It's the crater counting tool, where it
Okay.
automatically generates like up to 20 lines out from the center of the
Okay.
crater. So I could show you that
Okay.
today or tomorrow, because I was doing this and then a grad student told me about that tool and I've been
Okay.
using that tool. So I could show you that. Also, could you go to those sort of weird cases that you were
Yes.
showing? Because something I was wondering is, and this could be open discussion, are those even very reliable, to be using in the first place? Perhaps if people looking at it can't even agree on, how we should
Yeah.
evaluate it, and then maybe we shouldn't be using that data in the
Yeah.
first place.
I believe we selected the craters without looking at the profiles first and then just stuck with it and said,
Yeah.
let's see what happens here. But when we do more tests, we are definitely going to sort for craters that are going to be more helpful than something like this.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad to try to evaluate this,
Yeah.
but just, something to consider,
Definitely.
do you want to be evaluating that data?
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
One more question in the room and then one.
I saw Veronica's on there, but we have time for both. I'll go quick.
Sure.
I'll go quick. Thanks, Stuart. Really great to see your work and congratulations on getting this much done in a short period of time.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you were able to join us here. A graduate student working with me, Haley Shethna, joined us. She wasn't here this morning for her introduction, so you should wave. But she and I have been working on some secondary crater depth data as well. And you just mentioned you might like to compare to some other stuff. So we're a little behind on getting through that, but we would be happy to talk to you more sometime.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask the one online. This comes from Sierra Ferguson.
Oh, Veronica had her hand up too.
Oh, I didn't see the hand. Oh,
Well-
um,
I hope mine's a quick, but Stuart, your judgment.
go ahead, Veronica.
Okay, so great talk. Back on your slide where you showed your profile collection lines, a few slides back, you have your 8 profile collection lines, and then on the east side, there's clearly there we go, thank you. Clearly a large crater. Do you still take measurements from that eastern part of the red profile to when you're creating your average rim height, for example?
At the moment, yes, but we haven't gotten to the point that we're actually like taking the measurements and comparing them yet. But that is definitely something that we were talking about, considering what other craters in the vicinity could impact it, what ways we could deal with that. We didn't come up with anything specific yet, though, on how to deal with that.
Thank you. Yes, that's definitely going to bring down your average.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to please ask Sierra's question. Would you want to expand this data set to include, say, Mars craters?
At some point, maybe, but at the moment, we're just focusing on the moons. Like I said, it's a very preliminary study of it. So hypothetically, it could be expanded to other planetary bodies, but at the moment, we're just focusing on the moon.
Okay, and cognizant that we're slightly more behind right now, I'm going to add, moderator's choice, that there are other ways to handle overlapping craters and other things. So there's some code that I wrote, which is not public, and I've been meaning to try to generalize it in some way in Python or something. Where you can actually get those profiles, but then it automatically excludes any other known crater in the database. So that, for example, that crater next to it is probably large enough that I would say, oh, there's a crater here, I should not use any depth pixels around here. I don't know if JMARS can handle that. There might be some way to kludge it together, but that's something that one should probably do as a next step.
Okay.
If not just excluding that profile.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm going to say thank you, Dylan. Very good.